Hey everyone, it's Spicy Sushi. So I wanted to put this video out today because this is a really big day for profit crafting. Because the Craft of Exile website has actually released an update for their Affinity system. Now, if this gets more frequent updates, this is going to be absolutely game changing for profit crafting and Path of Exile. It is going to be a lot more easier to get into for a lot of players if they are struggling with researching items to craft through like something like Harvest, for example, which is what this video is kind of going to be more geared towards is Harvest, people crafting through Harvest. But so let's go ahead and get into what that is. Now, if you go to Craft of Exile and click on the Affinity tab, this was actually updated yesterday. The last update was in the middle of Expedition League, and it was in a very experimental stage. But this is really game changing. So what it does is this menu, it pulls all the builds from Path of Exile from level 97 plus currently, and it will break down for you, depending on what you click, all the different modifiers that players are using on their rare gear, the influences they're using, the item bases they're using, literally everything. This has not been a thing in the past. You can't look at that stuff on PoE Ninja. Originally, you would have to basically go down to here. Like if you wanted to see what are raiders doing, you would have to like figure out the skill. So that I guess the most played skill is like, lightning strike right now. I have to go down to weapons. Actually, yeah, they don't even have like item bases like rings and boots and stuff, but this does. So what this is going to do is it's going to pull all the builds and it's going to tell us everything about like everything that people level 97 plus are doing. There's a strong correlation between a high level player and having a lot of money to spend on their build, obviously, and this app is really going to be game changing for that. So let's see, 17% of players are playing occultist right now. There's a lot of diversification when it comes to occultist at the moment. There's a lot of skills being played, and so this is a really nice class to look at for profit crafting. And we're going to jump into that. So basically, if we're on this little program right here, we can scroll down to the Ascendancy. Let's click on Occultist. It's going to break down for us the percentage, the percentage breakdown of players playing different skills. So we have Cyclone players are playing Strength Stack Occultist. We have Cast on Crit Ice Spear for Causticura. We have Death Aura players, Forbidden Rite players, Essence Drain, Eye of Winter. Basically everything. But we're going to look at Forbidden Rite. And this is where we're going to get into our second point. This is incredibly important. If you click on a gear slot, it'll tell you the percentage of players using a unique item. And that is really helpful because if you're going to profit craft a certain item for a build, you usually will not want to profit craft rares if 9 out of 10 players or 5 plus out of 10 players are using a unique item, because there's not going to be as many people that are going to be buying your item. For example, the amulet, most players are using a unique badge of the Brotherhood. For Forbidden Rite, if we click on gloves, over 60% are using uniques for Hands of the High Templar, Null and Void, Malevolence. You would only be selling to 37% of players 97 plus if you're making rare gloves for the build. But if we click on the ring for Forbidden Rite players, Forbidden Rite Occultists, we see 9 out of 10 players are using a rare item. And this is pretty huge. So we know right now there's going to be a market for crafting rings for this build. And so if we click on this, usually, unless you're not if you're not resistance starved for a build, you would probably not do a 2-stone ring. If it's a life base, you would usually want a vermilion ring. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And if we go down here, this is where things really get pretty insane. It breaks down the percentage of players using different modifiers on the build. So for example, on a vermilion ring for Forbidden Rite, 40% of players like to have minus non-channeling either through Syndicate or through Benchcraft. Most times it's going to be Benchcrafted. And another suffix is life gained on hit for enemies hit by your spells. And then we have Benchcrafted life is going to be most players, or unveiled life. That's what this symbol means here, is a veiled craft. We also have Temple, which is most people are not doing the Temple life and increase max life, but we do see that there are players doing that. Now for the suffixes, we see chaos resistance is going to be the majority of players at 21%. But you see here the suffixes do not have such high percentages as the prefixes. That is going to tell you that suffixes are pretty diverse for this build when it comes to their ring slots. They have 2 ring slots. The prefixes are quite important, but the suffixes there can be some flexibility, it looks like. So if we wanted to, we could just focus on these prefixes, which we see a majority are going to do non-channeling, life gain on hit with spells on Shaper or Crusader influence. And then the suffixes, a lot of them like to have this Despair curse on hit, or this through Hunter or through Delve. That's what the fossil means. And then we do see 10%, a little under 10% of players like to have global critical strike multiplier, either through Essence, Elder, or Warlord mod. But for this specific scenario, we're going to look at resistance because every build needs resistance. And for this build, we see Chaos Res, Lightning Res, All Ellie Res, Cold Res. And so that's what we're going to look at here. We're going to look at these prefixes and we're going to look at these suffixes. Now, so we see 1 out of 5, over 1 out of 5 players use life gain on hit by spells. Now, if we go to the calculator, we can actually look up this mod. So we'll just do what we did before. Let's go ahead and click on jewelry. Let's click on ring. Let's look at vermilion and let's put on shaper because it could be either shaper or crusader for this craft. Now let's go ahead and click on life gain on hit by spells. We see immediately that this is a caster life tag, and life is going to be a life tag, obviously. Now, these builds usually bench craft life or do veiled life, but we're going to look at it from a harvest point of view, where both of these share the life tag, and so that tells you you can hit this with life more common quite easily. Now, the resistances would come quite randomly from that. You could also finish the item with maybe a veiled chaos orb, in order to get some resistance on the suffixes. But we did see in our affinity tab, you can click right back over, that usually the build likes to finish with crafted life or non-channeling. So we're going to try to finish this craft with non-channeling. So we want to hit increase max life regularly through the mod, or through just life more common through harvest. And we want to hit life gain on hit with enemies by your spells. And we just want to hit those resistances naturally. All right, so now that we have researched the tag, we have it has life tag, and we have a life tag on max life, obviously. Let's get into crafting it. So we're gonna click on the emulator here, and this is not necessarily a crafting guide. I just want to make that clear. But we are going to be, this is just a way for me to show you how the affinity tab can actually help you now. So let's do our jewelry, our ring, our vermilion ring, like we did already. Let's do shaper, and remember always to catalyst before you actually craft. Oh, we already catalyst it. This makes it so this is not to make it hit the mods more often. This is simply to save you money. It only costs 4 catalysts to get something at 20% before crafting on it when it's scoured, rather than 20 catalysts later. Fertile catalysts are exceptionally expensive, so this will save you a lot of money. But yeah, so let's go ahead and we're going to relate this to harvest. And so I'm going to just look at reforge more common life. So if we hit this, looks like we just hit T1 life and T1 life on hit with spell. Now the issue is we have no good suffixes whatsoever, and we have a not so desirable prefix. So I would actually not craft on this. And so I'm just going to go again until, because this is no investment. Hitting with reroll more commons with life is 0 investment. So I'm going to wait till I get something I want to work with. And this is okay. We have max life, we have life gain on hit with spell, and we have all elemental resistance actually. So I might go for an annul. It's super cheap because I want to open up this prefix. If we hit it once, we have opened up 1 suffix, and then here, if you wanted to, you could go for, a beastcraft, a prefix to suffix, because we need to get rid of that evasion rating, because if we go back to our affinity, over 40% want this non-channeling. So you are going to want to craft for this specific craft that we've looked at in the affinity. We see these people need this mod, and so we need to have a prefix open for it. So if we do this, we took out the wrong mod, and so we would need to go again. So let's go ahead and reroll. Let's go ahead and go again until we can get that mod combination back. So we have life gain on hit with spell. We have no max life though, so I would keep going. T3 increased life, T2 spell with a prefix not there. So, and we have no good suffixes though. So I would really, since in Affinity we have Chaos Res here and Fire Res, Lightning Res, all Ellie Res, Strength, I would want to hit one of those useful mods because we can see in the Affinity tab that this build is actually Strength starved since it has such a high weight on this percentage on this percentage breakdown, and so Strength would be very nice to hit. As actually it can tell you that this tab is really useful for so many things, and that is a very useful thing. It can tell you if builds are what attribute a build needs is starved on, basically, that they don't get from their passive tree enough. So that's really helpful there. So I'm looking for more useful suffixes. Let's keep going. We have Lightning Res, but we did not hit flat life, so I would want to keep going here. Let's try to hit the spell and flat life. Here we go, tier 4 and tier 4 flat, and we have tier 1 life gain hit with spells with an open prefix actually. We have life gained on kill and mana gained on kill, but we have our tier 1 cold res. So this would be what you want to stop on because you have the open prefix. So let's go to Benchcraft. Let's do our, let's see, non-channeling, and we are done. We're done with this ring. Now, as we see, our investment was 22 chaos, besides quite a few rerolls, obviously, but in Harvest, you do get a lot of reforges, and you're crafting so many different things that it's not a big deal. This takes quite a while. So yeah, this ring is done. T1 cold res, non-channeling. We have it beefed up to -9%, which is, or -9, which is really big because of our catalyst. That's why the catalyst is so important, because it saves you a lot of money. It's like 16 chaos instead of spending over 100 chaos, which is what it would be. All right, so let's go ahead and look up our ring that we just made, just to give you guys kind of an example. We have 51 life, but it goes up to 58. So I'll go ahead and put 58 on there since that's what we can go up to. I'm gonna do my tilde, and then I'm gonna type in hit with spell, because it doesn't matter if I mess up the spelling or anything. Look for life hit spell. There it is. So that helped me out a lot there. We have tier 1, which is very high value. I'm gonna get rid of this tab so I don't get confused, which can go up to 18. We'll put it at 15. And then we have our non-channeling. Craft, bench crafted. Or what we can do is do count. Sorry, let me do, yeah, count non-channeling or open prefix. So we have an empty prefix 1, because if the item has an empty prefix, you can just craft this on there. So that's a very big distinction to make. And we'll put our count to 1. We'll do elemental resistance. So ours has the benefit of being 1 elemental resistance, but let's just, for the sake of making the search easier, let's just do total Ellie res. I'll put it 45. Let's go ahead and search. We would want to go down. We would want to do Vermilion rings since we use the Vermilion ring base. And it looks like our item is about probably less than 10 exalts because we have less life. So you could put it at, and 2 days ago, so it's probably around 6 to 8 exalts. And it was a very low investment. So yeah, this is not, like I said, this is not a crafting guide. There's probably more efficient ways to craft it. And obviously, higher tier crafts are going to use double influence, which is, you know, this is going to be exceptional for looking at double influence items, like for Awakener Orb slamming, since if this is telling me right here that if I Awakener Orb together, Despair on hit and Life Gain on hit, there could be some value there. Or Global Crit Multi, it looks like, as a percentage as well. Or this Delve mod is telling me that you could buy a base of Vermilion Ring that already has Despair on hit and try to finish the prefixes through Harvest. So there are options there, like you would slam a Crusader Orb after hitting some max life on a prefix, and see if you could hit life get on hit with spells. Uh, so that is obviously something there, because a Despair on hit Vermilion with the mods we already hit would be incredible. So yeah, there you go, and hopefully that helps you guys out, and I will see you in the next one.